The lecture hall smelled like old wood and smugness. Dr. Helena Graves watched the janitor reach for the chalk, watched his dark fingers close around it, watched him turn toward the equation that had stumped her entire graduate seminar for 40 minutes. She didn't gasp, didn't stop him, just let the laugh bubble up. Soft at first, then louder. "Oh, this should be good," she said. 15 doctoral candidates turned in their seats. Someone snickered. The janitor, maybe 40, graying temples, navy coveralls with Winston embroidered over the pocket, didn't look at her. Just studied the board. The Navier-Stokes equation they'd been wrestling with. A fluid dynamics problem so complex it had a $1 million prize attached to solving its general form. Helena had assigned a simplified version, even that had broken them. "Sir," she said, voice dripping with performative patience. "We're in the middle of something. If you could just," Winston wrote. His hand moved fast. Confident. Chalk scratching symbols that looked like music. He didn't hesitate. Didn't erase. Just knew. The room went quiet. Helena's smile thinned. Winston stepped back, set the chalk down on the tray, dusted his hands, turned to face her. "Third line," he said quietly. "You missed the tensor. Without it, the system's unstable." Helena's throat tightened. She looked at the board, at the solution, the correct solution. Something cold slid through her chest. "How?" She stepped closer. "How did you?" Winston picked up his cleaning cart. "Night classes at community college. Long time ago." He walked toward the door. "Wait." The word came out sharper than Helena intended. "You can't just, who are you?" Winston paused, looked back over his shoulder. "Nobody," he said. "Just the janitor." And he left. 6 hours earlier, Winston Hayes had started his shift at 2 p.m., same as always. Clocked in, grabbed his cart from the supply closet, checked the list. 3rd floor classrooms, faculty offices, 2 lecture halls, men's restrooms. Oakmont University paid $12 an hour. No benefits. He'd been there 9 years. He didn't complain. The work was honest. Quiet. It let him think. Winston had always liked thinking. As a kid in Montgomery, he'd solve puzzles for fun. Math homework from 3 grades ahead. Chess problems in library books. His mother, a seamstress who worked until her hands cramped, used to say he had a gift. "You're going to be something, Win. Something big." He believed her. Right up until his father died. Heart attack at 42. No insurance. Bills that swallowed everything. Winston had been 17. 2 months from graduating top of his class. Full scholarship offers from 3 universities. He'd taken a job at the plant instead. 40 years of almost. Almost finished his degree. 2 night classes from a BA in mathematics before his mother got sick. Almost saved enough to go back. Then his daughter was born, and diapers cost more than dreams. Almost applied to graduate programs. But who accepts a 50-year-old janitor with a half-finished transcript? So he cleaned. And he thought. And sometimes, when the lecture halls were empty, he looked at the boards. At the equations left behind like breadcrumbs. Most were simple. Undergraduate calculus. Physics 101. Problems he could solve in his head while emptying trash bins. But today, 3rd floor lecture hall, the board had something different. Navier-Stokes. He'd stopped walking. Set down his spray bottle. Stared. He knew this equation. Had studied it decades ago in a borrowed textbook from the library. Had dreamed about it during lunch breaks at the plant, scribbling variations on napkins. It was beautiful. Impossible. A description of fluid motion so precise it could predict hurricanes or blood flow or the way cream swirled in coffee. And someone had made a mistake. Winston had seen it immediately. The missing tensor. The instability it created. His fingers had itched. Not your place, he'd thought. Clean and go. But he couldn't. He picked up the eraser. Corrected the 3rd line. Added the notation. And then he'd heard voices. The professor, tall, white, designer blazer, returning with her students. Winston had stepped back. Tried to fade into the corner. Too late. "Can we help you?" Dr. Graves had said. Not quite a question. "Just finishing up, ma'am." "We're in session." "Yes, ma'am. Did you touch my board?" Winston had frozen. She'd walked closer. Looked at the equation. Her expression had shifted. Confusion. Then something sharper. "Did you do this?" "I was cleaning, and you changed my work." There was an error. You thought." She'd laughed then. The sound that made his chest tight. "You're a janitor. What could you possibly think you know about graduate-level mathematics?" Winston had said nothing. "Leave." Dr. Graves had said. Now, before I call security. He'd left, walked straight to the custodial office, clocked out, told his supervisor he felt sick, drove home in his 20-year-old Civic, hands steady on the wheel, eyes dry. At home, his daughter Kendra was at the kitchen table. 15. Brilliant. Homework spread everywhere. Dad. She'd looked up. You're early. Slow day. She'd studied him. Kendra had her mother's eyes. Saw everything. What happened? Nothing. Dad. Winston had sat down, rubbed his face. Sometimes, he'd said slowly, people see what they expect to see, not what's real. Kendra had reached across the table, squeezed his hand. Their loss, she'd said. Winston had smiled, squeezed back, but alone in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he felt something he hadn't let himself feel in years. Anger. Not the hot kind. The kind that burned cold and slow. He'd spent 40 years invisible, dismissed, erased, and today, he'd been humiliated for being right. Winston closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he'd go back. Clock in. Clean. Because that's what he did. That's all anyone thought he could do. The video went viral by morning. Winston didn't know. He was on the bus to work, thermos of coffee in one hand, lunch his daughter had packed in the other, when his phone started buzzing. Text from Kendra, Dad. Check Twitter. He didn't have Twitter. Another text, someone recorded you. You're everywhere. Winston's stomach dropped. He opened his browser. Searched his name. Nothing. Searched Oakmont Janitor. 17 results. The first video had 200,000 views. Shaky footage, filmed from the back of the lecture hall. Someone's phone. Winston at the board, chalk in hand. Dr. Graves laughing. Oh, this should be good. Winston solving the equation in 90 seconds. The room's stunned silence. Dr. Graves saying, how did you? Winston's quiet response. Night classes. Long time ago. The comments were a flood. This man is a genius. That professor's face when she realized. Y'all really thought he couldn't think because he holds a mop? Winston closed the browser. His hands were shaking. By the time he reached campus, news vans were parked outside the main hall. Winston walked past them, head down, ID badge flipped inward. A reporter called out. Sir, are you Winston Hayes? He kept walking. Security stopped him at the employee entrance. Mr. Hayes, Dean wants to see you. I just need to clock. Now, sir. Dean Whitmore's office smelled like leather and old decisions. The dean, 60s, white beard, kind eyes that probably meant well, gestured at a chair. Please, sit. Winston sat. Quite a day you've had. Sir, I didn't mean to cause. You solved the graduate-level problem in under 2 minutes. Whitmore leaned back. Dr. Graves confirmed your solution was correct. More elegant than hers, actually. Winston said nothing. I looked into your file. You took classes here. Years ago. Night courses. Never finished. Why? Life. Whitmore nodded slowly. Mr. Hayes, this university owes you an apology. What happened yesterday was unacceptable. Dr. Graves was just humiliating you in front of her students. Whitmore's voice hardened. We've had complaints about her before. Arrogance. Dismissiveness toward staff. This video is forcing us to address it. I don't want anyone punished. That's generous. But this isn't about punishment. It's about standards. Whitmore folded his hands. We'd like to offer you something. A chance to complete your degree. Full scholarship. You'd work part-time, study part-time. Winston stared. We have programs for non-traditional students. You'd finish your BA, and if your work is strong, and I suspect it will be, we'd support graduate study. I'm 57 years old. And I'm a janitor. You're a mathematician, Whitmore said quietly. You've just been cleaning floors instead of solving proofs. Winston's throat tightened. Think about it. No pressure. But the offer stands. Winston didn't go to his shift. He walked instead. Through campus. Past buildings where students rushed between classes, backpacks heavy, futures bright. He'd wanted this once. Believed he'd have it. And then life had happened. One compromise after another until the dream was so distant it felt like fiction. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Hayes? A woman's voice. Professional. Warm. My name is Dr. Imani Cross. I'm a professor at Howard University. I saw the video. Ma'am, I'm not looking for. I'm calling to offer you a position. Winston stopped walking. Visiting scholar. 1-year appointment. You'd work with my research team on fluid dynamics applications in renewable energy. Full salary. Benefits. And if you want to finish your degree, we'd cover it. Why? Because I know what it's like. Her voice softened. To be brilliant and invisible. I spent years proving myself in rooms that didn't want me there. You shouldn't have to. Winston closed his eyes. You don't know me. I know you solved the Navier-Stokes variant in 90 seconds. I know you've been cleaning buildings while holding entire equations in your head. That's enough. I have a daughter. She's in school here. We have excellent schools in DC. And scholarships, if she's college-bound. She is. Then bring her. Winston opened his eyes. Looked at the quad. The students. The life he'd wanted. Can I think about it? Take your time. But Mr. Hayes? You spent 40 years making yourself small to fit into spaces that didn't value you. Maybe it's time to take up space somewhere that does. That night, Winston told Kendra. She cried. Not sad. Overwhelmed. Dad, you have to go. It's not that simple. It is, though. She grabbed his hands. You spent your whole life making sure I had chances. Let someone give you one. What if I can't? You solved that equation like breathing. You can do this. Winston looked at his daughter. 15. Fierce. So much her mother. What about you? I'll go anywhere. She smiled. As long as you stop cleaning other people's messes and start solving your own equations. 3 days later, Winston returned to Oakmont. Not to work. To meet Dr. Graves. She'd requested the meeting. Sent an email. Formal. Stiff. They met in the faculty lounge. She looked tired. Older than she'd seemed in the lecture hall. Mr. Hayes. Thank you for coming. Winston nodded. I owe you an apology. She said it carefully, like the words hurt. What I did was inexcusable. I humiliated you because I assumed, because I didn't see you. You saw a janitor. Yes. She met his eyes. And that's my failure. I've spent so much time fighting to be taken seriously in my field that I became the thing I hate. Someone who dismisses people based on assumptions. Winston said nothing. The university placed me on probation. Mandatory bias training. Reduced course load. My grad students are furious with me. She paused. I deserve all of it. I didn't want that. I know. That video shows your grace. And my cruelty. She took a breath. For what it's worth, your solution was extraordinary. You see patterns I miss. You always have, haven't you? Yes. Then I hope you do something with that. Somewhere that values it. Winston stood. I am. Dr. Graves looked up. Something in her expression shifted. Relief, maybe. Good, she said quietly. That's good. Winston walked out of Oakmont University for the last time. The sun was bright. Campus hummed with motion. He got in his car. Drove home. Started packing. 8 months later, Winston stood in a laboratory at Howard University, surrounded by whiteboards covered in equations he'd written. Not cleaned. Written. Dr. Imani Cross leaned against the desk, reviewing his latest proof. She was 50, dark-skinned, silver locks pinned up, wearing a Howard hoodie and the kind of confidence that came from surviving rooms that tried to erase you. This works, she said finally. Winston, this actually works. The equation modeled turbulent flow and wind turbines, predicting efficiency losses before they happened. If scaled, it could revolutionize renewable energy design. You're sure? Winston asked. I've checked it 6 times. So has the rest of the team. She smiled. We're publishing. Let author. Winston's chest tightened. Imani, you should. No. This is yours. On it. Behind them, 3 graduate students, 2 women, 1 man, all young enough to be his children, nodded agreement. They'd been skeptical at first. A 57-year-old man with an unfinished degree joining their team. But Winston had proven himself. Not through credentials. Through work. We'll submit to nature, Imani continued. Then start building the prototype. I've got funding meetings next month. If this holds, we're looking at patents. Licensing. Maybe a startup. Winston nodded slowly, still adjusting to the word we. To being seen. How's Kendra? Imani asked. Good. Great, actually. Loving her school. Talking about engineering programs. Howard has an excellent one. I know. Winston smiled. She's visiting 3 campuses this spring. Won't decide until she's seen everything. Smart kid. She is. Imani squeezed his shoulder. Go home. Rest. Tomorrow we celebrate. Home was a small apartment in Columbia Heights. 2 bedrooms. Walking distance to campus. Kendra had decorated her room with posters. Janelle Monáe, Katherine Johnson, a periodic table of female scientists. She was at the kitchen table when Winston arrived, laptop open, calculus homework spread everywhere. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, baby. How'd it go?" "We're publishing." Kendra shrieked, jumped up, hugged him so hard his ribs protested. "Dad, that's incredible. It's just one paper. It's your paper. Your name. Your work." She pulled back, grinning. "I'm telling everyone. It's not a big deal. It's the biggest deal." She poked his chest. "You spent 40 years invisible. Now the whole world's going to see what I've always known. You're brilliant." Winston's eyes burned. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yeah, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." That weekend, Winston got a call from Dean Whitmore. "Mr. Hayes, I hope I'm not disturbing." "Not at all. I wanted you to know, Dr. Graves completed her probation. She's back to full teaching load. And she requested permission to share something with you." Winston waited. "She's redesigned her pedagogy, brought in guest speakers from non-traditional backgrounds, created mentorship programs for staff interested in academics. She cites your encounter as the catalyst." "That's good." "It is. She'll never be perfect. But she's trying. Because you showed her something true about herself." Winston didn't respond immediately. Then, "Dean, I appreciate the call. But I've moved on. I understand. I just thought you should know, you changed something here. Maybe not everything, but something." 2 months later, Nature accepted the paper. The press release went out on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, Winston's inbox was flooded. Conference invitations, collaboration requests, a TED Talk offer, interview requests from NPR, The Washington Post, Scientific American. One email stood out. From MIT. Subject, faculty position, applied mathematics. Winston read it twice. Then called Amati. "They want me to apply for a tenure track position." Silence. Then, "Are you going to?" "I don't have a PhD. They're waiving that requirement. Your published work speaks for itself." Imani. "Winston, listen to me. You've earned this. Not because of that viral video. Because of 40 years of holding equations in your head while the world looked past you. Because you never stopped thinking. Take the interview. See what happens. What about the team? The team will be fine. We'll be proud." Winston took the interview. Flew to Boston on a cold April morning. Walked through MIT's campus. Buildings he'd only seen in textbooks, decades ago, when he'd dreamed smaller dreams. The interview panel was 6 professors. 3 men, 3 women, diverse in background but united in skepticism. "Mr. Hayes, your recent work is impressive. But you're asking us to overlook traditional qualifications." "I'm not asking anything," Winston said quietly. "You invited me." A pause. "Fair point. Why MIT?" "Because I've spent my life solving problems nobody thought I could touch. I want to teach students that credentials aren't the same as capacity. That genius doesn't only look one way. And if we reject you, I'll keep doing the work. Here or elsewhere." The lead professor, an older black woman, Dr. Simmons, smiled slightly. "What would you teach?" "Fluid dynamics, applied mathematics, and humility." Winston met her eyes. "I'd teach them to see people they'd otherwise miss." MIT offered him the job. Winston accepted. Started in the fall. His first lecture was standing room only. Students, faculty, reporters. Everyone wanted to see the janitor who became a professor. Winston stood at the front of the hall, the same kind of hall where he'd once been laughed at, and picked up the chalk. "My name is Dr. Winston Hayes," he said, "and I'm going to teach you how to think." He wrote an equation on the board, then turned back to the room. "Mathematics doesn't care where you come from. It cares if you're right. So let's start there." That night, Winston called his mother's sister, the only family left from Montgomery. "Aunt Reese. It's Win. Baby, I saw the news. MIT. Your mama would be so proud." Winston's voice cracked. "I wish she could see it." "She does, honey. She does." Years later, Winston would publish 3 more papers, advise a dozen graduate students, win a MacArthur Fellowship. But the moment he remembered most was smaller. A Tuesday afternoon. Office hours. A student, Haitian, first generation, struggling, knocked on his door. "Professor Hayes? I don't know if I belong here." Winston looked at her. Saw himself. "Why? Everyone's smarter. Faster. I'm just—" "You're here," Winston said. "That means you belong. The rest is work. But what if I'm not good enough? Then you'll get better." He smiled. "I spent 40 years believing I wasn't good enough. Turns out I was just surrounded by people who couldn't see. Don't let anyone make you small. Not even yourself." The student nodded, eyes shining. Thank you, Professor. On his 60th birthday, Winston stood in his office, walls covered with published papers, awards, photos of students who'd gone on to change the world, and thought about the lecture hall, the laugh, the moment he'd been invisible. He didn't forgive Dr. Graves. Didn't need to. But he understood something now. Her humiliation hadn't diminished him. It had revealed her. And in being revealed, she'd shown him a truth. That the people who dismiss you are afraid of what you might become if given space. Winston had taken the space, built a life in it. And now, every day, he made space for others. That was the real equation. Not fluid dynamics or Navier-Stokes. But this, that dignity, once claimed, cannot be taken. And genius, once seen, cannot be erased. Winston picked up his daughter from the train station that evening. She was home from her PhD program, engineering, Johns Hopkins, full ride. Hey, old man. Hey, Dr. Hayes Jr. She laughed, hugged him. They drove home through D.C., city lights glowing, talk radio murmuring low. Dad, yeah, I'm proud of you. You know that, right? Winston's hands tightened on the wheel. I'm proud of you too, baby. We did good. We did. And somewhere, in a lecture hall at Oakmont University, a new janitor cleaned the boards, saw the equations, paused, and maybe, just maybe, picked up the chalk.